Let's start this video with a question. Which one is scarier? With a chica or with a chica without her head? If I have to choose, I'll say with a chica without her head. Why? Because the endoskeleton head is much more terrifying. Back when I was 10, when FNAF first came out, there was always one thing about the animatronics that scared me so much. And that's the creepy endoskeletons hiding inside the suit. They look so uncanny to me. Even the endos and security breeds are considered the scariest animatronics in the game. I don't just find them scary, I also love the design. Seeing the mechanical parts that makes this robot move looks very cool and fascinating. Of course, this isn't realistic. An endoskeleton like that could never keep its balance while walking. But the idea of it being able to walk and slow down a person is very frightening. In this video I take a dive into the design and functionality of the endoskeletons. I want to find out what exactly makes the endoskeletons so scary. And to get to the bottom of that, I of course have to start with the first Endo, which is Endo 1. When Scott introduced the game Five Nights at Freddy's, he released this teaser image. In this shot you see OG Freddy with two naked endoskeletons behind him, which are probably the endoskeletons for Bonnie and Chica. Now I'm very curious why Scott decided to show two endoskeletons instead of the animatronics Bonnie and Chica. At the point of the teaser, he probably already had the design for those animatronics. So why use two naked endoskeletons? I think Scott did this to make it clear that this game is about possessed animatronics. But also another reason, namely the endoskeletons actually look really scary and unnatural, which works well for promoting a horror game. Looking at the Endo 1 design, he's very skinny. It looks like you could easily knock him over with a push. The Endo doesn't have a lot of wires around him and got a very small mouth. I think what this Endo makes so creepy is his face. The combination with the big eyeballs and small jaws make him look very uncanny. I also like that Scott used the spare Endo in the parts service room. This way the player knows what's hiding inside these kids friendly animal suits. Also the easter egg where the Endo looks at the camera is so terrifying. Strangely, there is an image of Freddy without his head that shows the Endo head that's a bit different than the normal Endo 1 head. Maybe this was an early design for the Endos, who knows. Scott did a great job for making the first endoskeleton creepy, but also logical to fit in an animatronic suit. Endo 1 was one of the main reasons why I found FNAF so scary. Knowing that this Endo is inside Freddy Fazbear really gave him the creeps. Luckily, Scott didn't stop with the endoskeleton horror and continued it in FNAF 2. This time he made one that was a bit sturdier and had some resemblance to a real skeleton, like the ribcage in the middle. It also has a bigger jaw than Endo 1 and comes with ears. I think Endo 2 has the same scare factor as Endo 1. They both have a weird scary face. I don't know what it is with these Endos, but the faces look so uncanny to me. Unlike Endo 1, Endo 2 doesn't show up a lot in FNAF 2. He wasn't seen in the teaser image and is also not located in the parts service room. Instead, he's a secret animatronic that can show up in the vent or in the prize corner. He cannot jump scare the player, he just stands there doing absolutely nothing, which makes him even more creepy honestly. In Help Wanted, Steel brought back this easter egg and they also added the Endo in the vent repair minigame. Both Endo 1 and Endo 2 are amazing in my opinion. Their designs are great, even though they wouldn't work in real life. And they are in my opinion the scariest Endos in all the FNAF games. I would have loved to see more shots of animatronics missing their heads, revealing their true identity of being a cold-blooded metallic endoskeleton. Unfortunate, Scott did stop with the Endo horror after FNAF 2. He didn't make special Endo renders for FNAF 3 and 4, even though he had to create new endoskeletons for those animatronics. He didn't even show the endoskeleton in the extra menu, they were just completely gone from the FNAF horror. I find it really unfortunate, because for me the Endos are part of FNAF's horror. They made the games a bit more sinister and without them it just doesn't feel the same. For example, look at the trailer for FNAF 1. In the last shot we see Bonnie ripping his head off, exposing his endoskeleton head. This looks quite creepy, right? Although yes, it would be scarier if you still saw his original eyes, instead of these red dots. But still, I love that Scott used the Endos to promote his game. It could be that he stopped with this because he wanted to make sure that everybody knows that it's about possessed robots. And after FNAF 1's success, he felt like he didn't have to tell the people anymore that it's about animatronics. However, I still find it a shame. In my eyes, endoskeletons belong to the FNAF horror. Eventually, on the 2nd and 3rd anniversary of FNAF, Scott showed the endoskeleton of Springtrap. Now officially it's not really an endoskeleton, it's actually a springlock suit. However, I still think there is some sort of endoskeleton shoved into the springlock suit. People told me that the springlock itself is the endoskeleton. Basically, when it activates, the springlocks move forward, forming an endoskeleton. This does sound logical to the story and is something that I believed. But when you look at the design of Springtrap's endoskeleton, you may notice that it doesn't really work as a springlock. For example, the fingers. They are metallic robot fingers inside the hands, meaning a human hand wouldn't fit in. Also, the hips are placed too awkwardly to fit a human inside. It could of course be that Scott didn't really think about the logic of the spring locks and just tried to make something scary. But it could also be that Scott did this on purpose, showing that William Afton shoved the endoskeleton inside him, so that he could move around. Eventually it doesn't really matter. We know he wears a springlock suit, with or without a endoskeleton. Talking about the springlock suit, I like that the remains of William Afton is wrapped around the endoskeleton. Also, just like Endo 2, this endoskeleton also has a ribcage. I understand why Scott didn't want to show an endoskeleton or Springtrap in the game. It looks kinda goofy. But when you look at FNAF 4, it's a bit weird the endos didn't return. Sure, if Scott had in mind that FNAF 4 was a dream, it would make sense to see an endoskeleton. And that was probably also his idea at first, until he changed the story in Location. Scott did kinda show the Nightmare endoskeleton with Nightmare. The animatronic Nightmare is a transparent suit, meaning we can see the endoskeleton inside. Later in Help Wanted, an official Nightmare endoskeleton was shown. It's a bit weird why this character is in the gallery, since he's only shown as a prop in the hard mode Ennard level. I honestly think the reason that Steelwool and Scott added this endoskeleton to the game is because of lore reasons. My guess is that Scott confirmed here that FNAF 4 isn't a dream, and that one of the Nightmare animatronics are real, but that's just a theory. The design of the endoskeleton is very cool. I only missed the scary part. In Help Wanted, he got these normal reddish eyes, which in my opinion doesn't scare me that much. I think if you change the eyes to look a bit more like the FNAF 4 eyes, like some other people have done, it makes him much more terrifying. I mean, look at the difference here. This is how easy you can change the design from being kinda scary to absolutely terrifying. In FNAF World, a few more endoskeletons have also been added, but I'm not going to talk about that for too long. Scott brought back Endo 1 and 2 in this game, and also added a new endoskeleton, namely Plushtrap's Endo. You also have a few new endoskeletons that work in the shop and stuff, but I don't know the names of them. It's nice that the endos came back in this game, but unfortunately it's not a horror game, which is why the endos aren't scary. In Location, Scott came back with a new endoskeleton that is called Yendo. It's a naked Phantom Freddy animatronic with yellow eyes. Some people believe that Yendo is the golden Freddy in Location, because of his name. They believe Yendo stands for Yellow Endo, aka Yellow Bear. Now Yendo was first an Easter egg that could appear in the Phantom Auditorium. When you have to walk past Phantom Foxy, there's a small chance this Endo replaces him. It doesn't jump scare the player, instead it just stares at you with this creepy pose. It will definitely scare you when you get this Easter egg for the first time. Later Yendo became a selectable character in the Custom Night update. Yendo's design is pretty cool. It's basically just a naked Phantom Freddy with 2 arms. I do find Yendo more scarier as an Easter egg than a selectable character. With the Easter egg, Yendo feels more ominous, like a character that isn't supposed to be here. I guess you could also say that Ennard is a endoskeleton. It's not meant to be an existing endoskeleton, but it exists because of the Funtime animatronics. I'm not going to explain his whole backstory, because I think everybody knows what Ennard is. Instead, I just talk about how scary Ennard can be sometimes. What I love about Ennard in this location is his creepy poses, like the one outside the scooper room. He's doing this idle animation while looking very creepy at the player. Also knowing that he's behind Baby while you move her to the scooper room is just terrifying. And don't forget the moment when Ennard crawls into your house. This really gave me goosebumps. Everything Ennard does just feels creepy and weird. He's just a perfect boss for the FNAF games. Now that I look back at the Endo horror and FNAF, I can see that it came back in Location. Yendo and Ennard are both one of the scariest animatronics in Location, and they remind me a lot of the creepy endos in FNAF 1 and 2. Unfortunately in FNAF 6 and UCN, the Endo horror did stop. Unless you count Molten Freddy as an Endo, but I'm not going to do that. It wasn't until Security Breach came out that we finally got new endos again. The endos are easily the scariest part in the game, even though Security Breach wasn't scary at all. The game mechanic where you have to stare at the endo so that it doesn't move is a terrifying way to get past them. You have no idea if they're getting closer or not, making the jump scare also unpredictable. I like that the endos have the same walk animations as the Glamrock animatronics. Some of them walk like Chica and others walk like Monty. The design is very sick and looks pretty complicated. They also look much bigger and stronger than regular endos. The only thing I'm missing with these endos is the horror aspect. Even though they are the scariest part of Security Breach, they don't look that scary. It's the eyes again that ruined it for me. If they had normal eyes instead of red lights, I think they could be much scarier. But even though they are not that creepy, their design is the best for an endoskeleton, in my opinion. I mean, they look convincing enough to work in real life. Now at this point of FNAF, I would say the endo horror stopped. But that's not true. In fact, the endo horror has never been this alive. Because I just realized that the main enemy in the new FNAF games is literally a endoskeleton, which is of course the Mimic. Now I wouldn't call it endo horror anymore, because for me the Mimic doesn't terrify me like the old endos did. Sure, the Mimic has its moments of being creepy, but it's not because of his design. For example, I think the Mimic is much more terrifying when he hides in a costume, especially the costume he made in Ruin. But when you look at his real body, he's not that creepy. At least the Mimic in Secret of the Mimic. Here he's just a normal Endo that can change his height and is very smart. The Ruin Mimic does have some creepy parts in him, like the humanized thieves. I hope in the future of Ruin they give the Mimic some scary scenes, because I think it could work with his design. Now even though I don't find him the scariest Endo, I do really love the Mimic. The way he outsmarts the player every time is genius, and his strength in the games is unbelievable. I honestly find the Mimic a perfect antagonist for the FNAF games. So yeah, the Endos are back in FNAF like never before, but not the same way as they used to be. So what made the Endoskeletons so scary for me as a kid? No idea actually. I think it's mainly because of their face. The combination of the big eyes, small mouth and the weird shape of the head makes the Endos so unnatural. It's hard to describe it. They are just so uncanny to look at, and that's what makes the older Endos so great. They just worked for FNAF. Now I'm curious what you guys think about this. Did you also find the Endos one of the scariest things in FNAF, or do you think I'm exaggerating? Let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you leave a like and perhaps subscribe for more FNAF content. Also, if you're in the mood to watch another FNAF video, then click on one of the videos that pops up on your screen.